All right, guys. I know I missed last week. That was because I was out of town. I was in Vegas for a couple days, so I guess we can do the 3-week review now. We might do another Zoom next week just to get back on schedule. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do that. I don't think I have anything coming up, but I'll definitely keep you guys updated on that. As far as trades, I have probably, I think it's like 6 or 7 scenarios. I went ahead and circled every single scenario that I took, losses and wins over the past 3 weeks. Start off with GU, and then we can obviously go from back into EU. AU is the only one I haven't really touched over the past couple of weeks. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Take this off. So I'm kind of just been following the same bias that we had from our last Zoom, which was kind of just this being semi-bullish. Especially from, I guess, a swing perspective. So I believe our Zoom last time was on the 7th. Yeah, right around the 7th, I believe. So literally the immediate week after that, I kind of just caught a couple of continuations. The first one being right here. So just, I guess, to simplify this, we know that our directional bias is bullish, so we know that our swing and our major is technically bullish. However, you can't argue that the internal can be bearish. Okay, am I tripping, or where is the arrow? Okay, that's weird. They changed the arrow. Okay. So we know their directional bias is technically bullish at the time. Not to mention that we're about to enter into session right when we see this come into a POI. And the reason why this is important is because this is the last time. Okay, this is weird. I don't know why this changed. Solidified point. Obviously, this is the last time we saw a decent pullback up until the impulse, which had occurred on the Tuesday prior to that. I was actually looking for buys here on Tuesday, but I just did not find any decent scenario unless I would have potentially traded the 99% at the very deep retracement into the upside. That could have worked, but in my opinion, I thought that was a bit too overly optimistic of me. I thought it was a bit aggressive, so I kind of just ignored this for the Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, once we came back into this POI, and the reason why that's marked is because this is probably a higher time frame type of POI. I believe it was 2 hour. Yep, there you go. It was pretty much a 2 hour POI there. And all I'm doing is looking for the immediate continuation based on that scenario. So I'm actually going to replay here. So this is kind of just as textbook as it gets, especially from the M1. What I had done here, pretty much been extremely aggressive with only requiring the CBOS from the scalp in order to take the risk in this trade, only because the external, as in the swing and the major intraday, were already bullish, or you could even say that the major and the minor were already bullish. But either way, the external beyond that is also bullish as well. So I don't really need that much of a confirmation, in my opinion, because if I'm getting the CBOS that I want, right, yes, that is technically the beginning of a potential pullback over here, but like we said with the external, we're kind of just bullish everywhere else. So in my opinion, for me, that was enough, on top of the fact that we were right in the start of the New York session. So I had actually taken my scenario based on this inefficiency, right? Just because we can obviously minimize that up into here. You guys know that this is also a very possible thing, but you guys know I don't really care too much about maximizing the RR these days. I care more so about making sure I'm in the trade, making sure I'm directionally correct, and making sure that the invalidation is not met. So hence why my scenario here was kind of perfect. This has probably been arguably, I think, my best trade since the last Zoom. But yeah, it was like a 6 pip. Yep, it was a 6 pip. And TP1 obviously being the first intraday high, that's already a 1 to 10, which in my opinion is very, very good. We can take this off. I didn't run this all the way up, but I didn't take this all the way up, but this did end up climbing for quite a while. All right, the reason why I hadn't held this too long, I think I held it like throughout the session and a bit beyond. It was like a 1 to 17, I believe. Yeah, I believe it was somewhere around here. I kind of just closed closer to the end of the day and just kind of just called it for, you know, called it quits on that and just took my profit and moved on to the next. But this did end up reaching at a max of 37 to 1. And the reason why I'm not really looking left here is because if we do look left, there really isn't a target, you know, because this is already the continuation based on the swing structure and the major intraday structure. And we're already approaching a potential bearish POI that we had covered a couple of weeks ago. That being here, I believe that's either a weekly or a monthly. So because we're approaching that as well, I'd rather just play it safe. Obviously, I know that this is a much bigger POI, that it will take time in order for this to, you know, actually manifest itself. So I'm not too worried about this completely reversing on me, but I'd rather just play it safe and, you know, just get out while I can, and it's already a very good trade. So beyond that, there was one more scenario, and this one was actually a loss. Yeah, this was couple of days. I think it was the next week after that. This was the week after that. We had kind of began to stall, and like we said, we're kind of following that bias that we mentioned from the previous weeks ago, where that really big POI here could potentially give us a reversal, or at least some type of short-term pullback. So when I was looking at this, obviously I know that we are bullish, I'm sorry. I'm actually going to do this instead. I know that we are bullish, right, from the major, the minor, the scalp, pretty much everything. However, right, once we begin to see the pullback, right, obviously we see the CBOS, so that would solidify our low here. So that would more so be a low into a high into a retracement. So here, once this solidifies the high, then in my opinion, this isn't a sign that we're going to completely reverse, but it's a clue saying that we could potentially see internal unwillingness and then later on external unwillingness. So that was kind of like my mindset here, because my trade was here. So if I begin to zoom in, I know that, okay, why is this? Okay, sorry about that. I know that potentially I am considering the reversal only if, right, this is broken right here, which indeed it is. All right, and I believe if we go to M15 is where I took this trade. Yes, it was. I was just looking at a potential continuation. Just very, very silly mistake in my opinion from my end. I wasn't anticipating this to just completely reverse. I was more so anticipating I'm actually going to replay again here. I was actually anticipating, right, that because we had a scalp structural, not even a structural disruption, but two solidified points creating a structural range from a scalp, I was kind of anticipating this to just take it from the M15 here. I was anticipating this to just kind of just react and then just give us the full move to the downside, which you see unfortunately just wasn't the case. What was the case was that we did end up reaching inefficiency, and the only thing that I didn't really like about this was just how big this zone was. This is about 20, yeah, it's about 22 pips. So that's not really my cup of tea. You guys know that like I said, I don't really prioritize the RR as much anymore, but I'm also not going to take something if the RR is just not really something I would want, because obviously my TP1 is here. So if we're just even judging on that, this alone is like a 1 to 2. Yeah, it's less than a 1 to 2. So I'm not gonna say it's not worth my time, but it's not really the type of scenario that I want to trade, because as you can see, even just the week before, we got a 1 to 17 on a very easy transition, that being here, right? 1 to 17 here, which is when I closed. But that is much more appealing to me than just this type of POI here. So it was a silly loss, but it is what it is. I kind of tried to just follow the scalp continuation. That ended up failing, but the trade was actually very, very, very good. Which, as you can see, this ended up kind of just melting. So I guess in hindsight, it would have been worth it to take that 22 pip SL, because from there, this ended up falling. Over 200 pips, which is a 1 to 20, correct? So, oh well, it is what it is. So that was pretty much one of my only losses that I've had over the past couple of weeks. I did have a couple break evens on EU, which is what we can do right now. So the cool thing about that GU trade, no, I wouldn't say there's like a minimum, but I have to ask myself if this trade is really just worth it, if it's worth the time, if it's worth the risk. So it's more so a, do I see the models that I want to see, or do I not? But yeah, I wouldn't say I have a minimum. I think that's kind of a stupid rule. If I would only take a trade if it's a 1 to 4, it'd be like, oh, okay, so if it's a high probability trade, but your TP1 is only a 1 to 3, then you won't take it. You know what I mean? So I think that's a very silly rule. I don't think that's something that should be enforced, unless you want to take it to the extreme and be like, I will not take a 1 to 1 or a 1 to 2, which is completely fine. But I don't know. I don't really like to do stuff like that. I just think it's much more broader than just saying, does this RR, is this RR sufficient enough for me to take the risk? I don't think it's that superficial. But anyways, cool thing about that GU trade was that I took the exact same trade on EU. And this one was actually, I think, way better than that one. So very, very quick and easy. I believe this was the M15 POI. Yeah. No, actually it wasn't. M30 POI. Yep, just kind of a turbulence point. M15, you could have even reduced that even more to right here. But that's not really, that's not really what I care about in this situation. I care that we are bullish. Obviously, as we can see here, we are bullish from the internal and also the external before this, right? We're obviously bullish. We had kind of converted here. So because of that, I believe it was M3, if I recall correctly. No, it was not. Yeah, so if I recall correctly, there is M5 POA, M5 inefficiency, I'm sorry, plus the invalidation being at the low. However, if we zoom in, right, once again, we're right into session. Right, we do have a CBOS, but we now have a type of liquidity grab plus a POI, I'm sorry, from the M15, plus the transition internally, that being the scalp CBOS. And that, in my opinion, was enough for me to want to risk here. If you wanted to be even a little bit more aggressive, you could have waited until this break, and then you could have taken something here. But either way, the SL is still the same, being down there. So is about a 6 pip as well. And this one climbed as well, pretty much almost the same distance in my opinion. Yeah, but the cool thing here was that I had an actual target. Right, once we hit this target, I was done. It's okay, I don't need to hold this anymore. Yes, it did end up going for 1 to 30, 1 to 40, but it's just part of the game. Leaving money on the table is part of the game. But yeah, this was my target, 11 to 1, easy, smooth, to the point, in and out. And then my next scenario after that, I think this is where it starts getting a bit tricky. Yeah, this is here. So, right, obviously we know that we are bullish here, correct? We know that we are bullish from the major, from the minor, from the swing, from the scalp, pretty much everything up until the scalp, which is the pullback. So what I'd like to see here, right, is to see some sort of transition, right? And the only reason why I took this scenario was because there was a model in place, right? So obviously we see a POI, and then obviously we see the second bounce of the POI. So this, right, the traditional, just I guess type of smart money setup would be to take out the low CBOS and then look for the deep retracement into the opposite direction, correct? But you guys know that this is extremely aggressive, and it's not necessarily the type of trade we want to take. So although this could have provided the best RR in hindsight, at the moment, if we were to sell at this point, then in my opinion, it's very, very aggressive, and you're kind of just guessing that high. So, right, instead of aiming to sell here or here, what I did was I waited for the structural disruption to occur. Why? Because low, high, retracement, continuation, the continuation fails, and we have a structural disruption on top of unwillingness here. So this was actually the exact same scenario that I took with GU, except it actually worked out on this one, where I kind of just looked for the scalp continuation, and I took a trade based on, was it the M15? I don't think it was the M15. It's actually right here. M5, okay. Let's see. M5, M4. Yeah, I don't recall exactly where this POI was, so let me look for it really quick. Here we go. This is the POI. Should have been this one. No, actually it wasn't. It was M1, I'm sorry. It was M1. There we go. M1 inefficiency. Right here. A bit more on the aggressive side, but you could say that there is structural disruption plus order flow continuation. So it is technically justified by a model. And this was, I believe, a 1-7. Yep, just a little bit below that. This was the scenario up until TP, that being the first low here. And the reason why I'm also aiming for the immediate low here is because we are still externally bullish. So I kind of am assuming, and I know that this is technically a reversal trade from the external, maybe just not the internal. The internal, I know that where there is a structural disruption plus the order flow continuation after that. But the external is still bullish, you know what I mean? So I kind of just wanted to take this up until the first TP and then go from there. And then next scenario, this was actually the one, I was in Vegas while I was watching this. I didn't take it, which I'm very, very mad I did not take, because this is kind of just textbook, just as textbook as it gets. Let me zoom in here. Super, super textbook. Here, where we see kind of a transition in London, we see the structural disruption here into here, because obviously we know that the pullback has begun low, high, retracement, CBOS, solidification of the low, that's taken out, therefore leading into this order flow, which then led to what begun the session. This had actually started right when the session opened. Yeah, this was just a perfect trade because we have the structural disruption and we have the order flow continuation. This second mitigation creating a strong new low, meaning that the order flow is strong, and this just melted from here. Just absolutely melted from here. I believe the POI was full there. Right, this ended up melting, as you can see. So this, in my opinion, I am a bit salty because this is actually kind of just a whole transition from bullish to bearish, and I didn't catch that final move, but you know, it is what it is. And that is probably a phenomenal trade. Yeah, about a 6 pip, and then this went up to 1 to 30, 1 to 40 again. So just phenomenal trade there. Didn't take that one, unfortunately, but oh well, it is what it is. And then now we can get to this week's stuff. I did see you guys take a EU continuation today. That's very good. I will go into that. But before we get into that, there's a very tricky scenario here where it was kind of just one of those days where it just wasn't going my way. And let me get to why. So we get into session, right? It was a bit silly of me to take a sell right after a bullish not even a CBOS, but considering that we have started the bullish pullback of a bearish trend, I was kind of just assuming that because the scalp has shown a strong momentum to the downside, I had kind of just wanted to find that continuation. So this was actually what my first trade was here. It was just a simple turbulence point order flow continuation. That's kind of just following the external, which was bearish at the time. But this did not hit my target. It hit maybe a couple pipettes right before my target, which is just one of those things that happens. It's happened to me countless times over the years. And I will never forget the first one. It was a Euro GBP trade where it was like 100 pip swing, and then it failed my TP by like a pip and a half, and then it reversed all the way back. Ridiculous, stupid, but it's part of the game. So I was in this trade, right? And my management here is, I am not certain that this is going to continue lower. Okay, if this wants to load, I'm not certain that we will go lower, but I am prepared to take a hedge onto the upside if an opportunity presents itself. So I know here, right, I am looking for this to completely melt and just take out target, which is kind of just what I was anticipating. However, I saw the pullback begin. That does not faze me. I do not care about the pullback. The pullback does continue. Let's actually zoom in a little bit more. This then gives, you know, an internal scalp continuation to the downside. It does not take out the previous low nor the other previous low. So I know that if this point is to break, then I can assume a bullish sense because we did not create a new low, and we did not create a new low, and we also have two taps. So I know that this is probably not going to continue lower if we do not take out the liquidity and we then take out the opposing or we have an opposing CBOS. So from here, I know that I'm now looking for a hedge. This is actually my reason to exit the trade. So it's technically like a break even, just because we're talking about the immediate target being the 1 to 3, 1 to 4, and I was hoping for this to continue lower. But you know, just based on where it's closed, it's basically a break even. So from there, I took a continuation trade. I believe it was an M5 POI, unless I'm mistaken. No, it was not. I think it was M3. Don't know why this is taking a long time to load. M30 POI. I wanted to take the hedge here into the upside with my invalidation obviously being at the low, but I decided to be a bit aggressive here and just take it based on the POI. And I was looking for obviously this here, but just like I did with the bearish trade, I know that if a certain point is to close before we take out the first TP, then I'm more than likely going to just get out of the trade. And then from here, as soon as I saw this being taken out, I'm out of the trade, because this is not only solidifies the high, but it also implies that we have internal unwillingness, which means that we could also now convert right back down, and it's actually to take out this liquidity, which is what happened here. Just one of those days where it just was not going my way. It's all good. I didn't technically lose anything but time, but yeah, it's pretty much a 2R, 2.4R kind of day. But that was that. Just very just not ideal scenario, but it happens, as I'm sure most of you guys know in here. And then last one for today, I didn't trade this, but I was looking at this. I also saw a couple of you take this, so just based on what had happened during London, just very easy. We know that we are technically bearish right up until even though we have a CBOS, but then we have an LG. Once we have the LG, then we have internal bullish movement, excuse me. So after that, excuse me, we are now in session. We know technically the external is still technically bearish. However, if there is a reason to buy, then, you know, why not? So just from what I can see here, I know that the internal pullback is bearish. I know that this is the final pullback, CBOS. That then leads into the downside, right? Which, you know, does not convincingly take out the lows. But once that is taken out, then in my opinion, this is a reason to continue higher. However, right after this CBOS, I'm not all the way convinced, because obviously we know that we are still bearish. So I'm not going to risk taking this trade here with the invalidation here, because I think it's still a bit too risky. So I'd rather just wait for the micro to show itself again, and this is where the scenario would be taking place, which is pretty much this entire POI here, which is kind of something that I saw a lot of you take as well. I thought this was very nice. And this, quick and easy, right into the target, 1 to 6 in just about 6 minutes. Insane. I think that's more than enough. That's a great reason to leave, and just a great way to close the week. So if you're still in this and you're still holding on, I would reconsider the fact that you just made 6% in 6 minutes. So that's kind of just how I'm looking at things now. But that kind of just concludes our trade for today. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, anything you guys want to go over? Let's see, we have a good amount of people on today. Any questions, concerns, anybody? I know you guys have been trading. I know you guys are doing trades, so don't be shy. And if you aren't having success, be honest about that too. It's okay. We've all been there. But I just want you guys to know that I cannot help you. I cannot do anything for you if you don't first speak up. Just want to make that clear to everybody on here and everybody listening to in the recording. If you guys do not speak up, I cannot help you. Just easy. Yeah, trying to find my groove. Nice. Still my journey on learning. No questions. I want to say thank you for your time. These trades reopen mine. Yeah, man. No worries. I think this is just a way better approach than just reviewing what has happened and give you a bias for the next 3 weeks. I think that's pretty useless now. I think you guys can figure that out yourself. If I can show you guys executions that genuinely make sense, because I try to take scenarios that genuinely make sense, then I feel like that can help you guys a lot. Yep, psychological triggers. Yep. Trading with taking care. Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I can't. There's not really much of advice I can give you on that. You can see here is a very nice continuation that's happened right now. Thing about that, I would say, is like, don't get me wrong, like there is time for everything. There 100% is time for everything, but I don't think that there's enough bandwidth in your mind to do everything every single day. So what I kind of do is I've really just started to try to pay a little bit more attention into where I'm giving my attention and just try to minimize it. Like, for example, social media, biggest waste of your day. I don't care. People say, oh, I do business there, blah, blah. Shut up. It's the biggest waste of your fucking time. So what I do now is, because it is such a waste of time, I have an app limit on there. I think it's 2 hours. I started at 3 hours. Then I realized that as soon as I put it on, and then I actually got that alert saying that I had wasted my 3 hours of social media for the day, I lowered it down to 2, and now I'm hardly ever on it. And if I do get on it, it's just like, what am I gonna do on here? Look at people's stories, you know, like. So I kind of just started to not waste my attention with certain things and just devoting them to other things, like, let's say the gym, let's say going to cold plunges, let's say doing trading, let's say my businesses, and then as for you, your kids, right? So I would just say, just focus on not throwing away your attention and try to devote your time into doing things that are actually productive for you, but also don't forget to have some fun here and there, you know, as I'm sure you probably know. The only trade on this range session, brother, you know this. You know this. You know the answer to that question. I have been trading the exact same time for years. Yeah, man, it's just attention. A lot of time, but not enough attention. But yeah, any more questions, guys? Anything you guys want to go over? Any trades you guys have taken? I know a lot of you like to stay, you know, kind of MIA, kind of to yourselves, which I appreciate and I respect. Some really nice moves. Yeah, it has been. And I was kind of just thinking about this earlier today too. I'm like, a couple of years ago, we used to complain about how in the summer you don't see good trades or, you know, stuff like that. But now it's kind of just routine. And maybe it's growth, maybe it's a different environment. Who knows? How do you deal with overtrading? Well, what is there to deal with? What exactly is there to deal with? Better go to work. Thank you, Zoom. It's Fredo, bro. It's not Sergio. I just use Sergio's Zoom. I should actually change my name on. You know what? I'm gonna do that now. But yeah, there has been some really nice moves. And as for overtrading, well, what exactly is there to deal with? And that's a genuine question, by the way. Yeah, sure, brother. Yeah, because the thing is I trade 3 days a week, and I will never trade more than maybe 2 trades per day. Overtrading, it's just like overtrading is one of those things, in my opinion, where I can't really help you with that. I can't help you control yourself with pushing buttons on your phone. It's one of those things, like I cannot help you do that. You know what I mean? So one, like, how are you trading? Like, the entire point of having a model is so that you don't take, you know, trades that don't follow your model, right? But then if that's too little, then you have multiple models, right? So do you have too many models? Do you not follow models? Like, are your models not specific enough? You think you have too many? Okay, how many is too many? Okay, so is 5 too many for you? How many of those 5 models, how many of those have you like genuinely tested over X amount of months and actually have been able to see success with them? Because right up until, because I used to have 3, right? I used to have 3, which was order flow disruption, structural disruption, and order flow continuation, right? But now there's 4, which is now I have a liquidity grab continuation. So the only reason why I incorporated a 4th was because I started seeing something over time, multiple times. I started to note it, then I made a definition for it, then I stress tested it, and then there, bingo, it's number 4, right? But I still don't take, like, for example, in the past 3 weeks, this has been what, 7 trades, right? That I showed you guys today, 6 or 7, and that's in 3 weeks of charting. You know what I mean? So you got to get to a point where not only are you selective, but with what you're selective with, you're 100% confident that it's more than likely going to be in your favor. Obviously, you guys know that not every scenario, I don't care what kind of model you trade, because there is still a bit of human error involved with this. You will take some losses. For example, like my GU trade today, where I tried to take the scalp continuation, it did not work, but it did work for EURUSD. That's just part of the game. You know, like you got to just take what you can get. You know, like for example, a lot of my trades, they're 1 to 10s, 1 to 11s, but they scale up to 1 to 20, 1 to 30. So I'd rather just close out sooner than add more stress into my life by trying to hold this trade. Because now I'm going to be checking this shit every 2 hours, every hour, you know what I mean? And you're just always going to be on your phone. So I'd rather leave money on the table, because not to mention, bro, like I'm involved with, you know, a couple of entrepreneur ventures. Like leaving money on the table is part of the game. Like it's part of the game. You cannot make every single possible dime. You know what I mean? So you have to leave money on the table eventually. So if I know that, and I know that I'm only going to trade 3 days a week, and I know that I only have 4 models, then how is it that I can take more than 1 or 2 or 3 scenarios per week, or even per day? You know what I mean? Like it's not possible, just because every day is not a trading day. Not every day shows you order flow that makes sense to a point where you can take a logical trade. You know what I mean? So like most of these questions, like you just got to talk them through with yourself. Like you said, your first question. Let me scroll up. How do you deal with overtrading? Okay, well, what's overtrading? Like, what is there actually to deal with overtrading? Because overtrading is not like it's a controllable thing, you know? Like, if you're asking me something like, why is my model not working? Okay, well, that's a completely different question, because that's maybe more so a market environment error, or it could be just you trying to force a type of scenario that has not been tested. It does not make sense, you know? But then if you continue with your original question, then how do you deal with overtrading? Okay, what is there to deal with? And then is it good to overtrade if you're still profitable? Well, what's the risk and what's the return? Is the stress that you're facing worth the profitability that you're reaching? Or should you sacrifice taking less trades and not suffer the same stress? You get what I'm saying? Yep, I also never, I mean, I wouldn't say I never buy and sell in the same session, because it really just depends, but it's very rare when I do that. But yeah, I do see what you mean. If you do try to change your bias a lot, you do get into that scalping mindset, and you're just trying to catch moves as they come, rather than trying to implement a model and have a high probability scenario. Yep. So simple. Maybe your issue is not the models, maybe your issue is just finding a bias. But yeah, I guess just based on what you're saying, I would say either maybe a problem is, can you find the right bias and can you stick to that bias, or are you actually trading transitions, like bullish to bearish transitions and vice versa? Because a lot of the time we can get caught up, like even here, we could say CBOS, order flow, new low, you get caught up easily trying to trade scenarios like this, when in reality, the external is already bullish. You get what I'm saying? So now I'm just looking for an excuse to be bullish so that then I can just continue based on the external. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, does anybody have any more questions, concerns? But yeah, man, you'd be surprised how much of that, how much of like overtrading, how much of this stuff, it's all a choice, bro. It's all a choice. But yeah, any more questions, guys, or should we wrap it up here? Yeah, any more questions, guys, or should we just wrap it up? It's in 45 minutes. Pretty good session today. Awesome. Yeah, if I don't have anything to do, we will probably do a session next Friday, just to get back on schedule. But if not, I'll let you guys know.